Welcome to Taxpayer Alert. I'm Al Segalla. I'll be a moderator, and I'm also president of the Calaveras County Taxpayer Association. Most of our guests relate to things that's of interest to the public and the taxpayers. And sometimes this is the only place you find out information, or you find out first here. And with that tradition, we have as our guest Tim Lutz, our county administrative officer, who's been with us before, and he's an amazing man. Tim, welcome aboard.
Thank you, Al. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself so they can know you're really a human being.
Well, I think when I was here before, I had kind of said my background and everything. Myself, I figured you guys are tired of hearing from me by now, but been with now the county in my position for the last year and I guess 3 months. It's amazing how quickly time flies.
Well, you've been doing a really good job. I know because I attend almost every meeting.
Well, thank you.
And it's really a pleasure knowing that we have a system that's working, even though sometimes it appears that it's not. And so we have a number of things to discuss. One of them is a very good thing. I think the county auditor was working toward getting this in place. It's called OpenGov. This is a system of transparency where the public and the taxpayers can actually understand the budget.
Yes.
That's a good thing.
Oh, absolutely. This has been a partnership between the auditor's office and the county administrative office. One of the things that was really important to us both is, both being the auditor and myself, was having a system that not only made it easier, more consistent, and reliable for when we do budgeting at the county level, but one of the things that really appealed to us with this system is the ability to have this transparency portal that lets the public really come in and look at real-time information on how's the county doing, when the system goes live. And unfortunately, we had hoped it would have gone live for our budget hearings. As it happened, we had some setbacks in the system. We needed to make sure that the budget piece was correct because we also have a requirement by law that the board needs a budget and they need to approve it by June 30.
Right.
So that delayed our public-facing portal a bit, but our anticipation is late July to be able to go live with this. And what it will really do is let someone go in and look at, here's your expenses. You can look at it by department. You can look at it by expense type, salaries, contracts, and then you can start to drill down and see what the actual expenditures are for any given time. Same with revenues. If the question was, hey, how's our county government funded? It'll give you a breakdown of how much is funded by local taxes, how much is from state and federal revenue, how much is for fees that we charge for services. And then you can look at a trend over the last 4 years to say, which direction is it going? Are we taking in more revenue? Is our revenue declining? Same with expenditures. So it's been a long time in development, and I think I'm excited because for a lot of the motherlode counties, we're really the pioneer in this type of a transparency portal. So I'm really excited to be bringing this forward and hope that the public and the users are as excited about it as we are.
Well, we are, the Taxpayer Association, we think that's a cat's meow.
Well, and the nice thing is it'll let us start to wed that with statistics. So, for instance, you can start to look at what is your, how many potholes did you fill, or maybe how many clients did you serve in a program, overlay that with that department's budget, and you can actually get kind of a realistic cost per output, which is valuable information for both, from a county administrator perspective and the Board of Supervisors, but also from the public of how effective are we being.
I think the county auditor expressed concern about getting a grip, long-term planning on roads and improvements, road repairs, so that you can plan in advance 5 years or 10 years or maybe longer what's going to be needed, and then plan for it in advance so it doesn't come as a surprise.
Most definitely.
Yeah, and, no, that's a good idea.
Yes, most definitely. And actually, it's when I talk a little bit about our county budget, forecasting and trying to do more realistic capital improvement, which is what you're describing, capital improvement planning,
Right.
has been really important.
One of the things that, speaking of money coming in, and there's different opinions on this, is the TOT tax, Transit Occupancy Tax, and this is where motels and hotels pay a part of their income to the county, and also when people rent out their homes, especially vacation homes, short-term rentals, they would also do likewise. And presently, I think it's 6%, and there's several proposals. One of them is 10%, and this has a tendency to be supported by local elected officials because the people tax have no say. And these are visitors to our county, and if it doesn't get too far out of whack, they don't even pay attention to it, and it's almost like free money. Maybe there is no such thing as a free lunch, but we could find out. But I understand that you'll have some proposals along those lines.
Yes, we're excited on next Tuesday's board meeting on June 26th. We're having the polling company that did polls through the beginning of this month to look at, okay, is this feasible? Do we want to do this? Because I totally appreciate the taxpayer perspective, being a taxpayer myself, that I don't take putting any tax measure lightly on the ballot. At the same time, we start to look at, okay, what services is TOT providing? And those services providing for our public safety, our fire, and also our roads, all of which do get used when people come in and visit. It also funds continuing to promote this county as a tourism destination, which I think is definitely valuable. I mean, the natural beauty, anyone who comes here falls in love with, wow, this is a beautiful place.
Yeah.
I want to live here, not just vacation here.
Right.
So where we started to look at is we are kind of behind the general trend on the percentage. That's not to say that's a bad thing, but it's also to say that, hey, there might be an opportunity to try and provide some service that while it is still absolutely a tax, it is not as borne heavily by our local businesses. One of the important things for me up front was working with the Visitors Bureau, talking to them about, hey, what is industry going to say about doing this? Because they're the ones that, are collecting this tax. They're the ones that if somebody's unhappy about it, have to hear about it. And the Visitors Bureau has been very supportive of the effort. And I think what they've been able to show is a lot of the statistics that this doesn't impact people coming based on paying your TOT. Now, like you say, if it's an exorbitant amount, 20%, you start to notice it. Certainly you notice it when you go to San Francisco and you get all the huge charges on your hotel bill. But I think keeping it at a reasonable level that is more or less what is expected. It's kind of like tipping at a restaurant. You go to a restaurant, you expect that you're going to tip, and that's built into that, that 15-20%. Whereas with hotels, people also, I think, have that same type of a thing. There's always going to be taxes that are associated with where you're staying. We don't want to be the highest by any means, but we also want to at least keep up with the industry.
Well, one perspective I've heard is that the visitors come here have a certain amount of money. It's not unlimited. And so if we tax them, they have less money to spend on things they buy and services they pay for and such. So we could be losing some sales tax even though we're gaining TOT tax. And And of course, it's true that the roads and the infrastructure and public safety does depend on tax money. But then again, those motels pay property tax, and many of the businesses that are supported by the tourist do pay property tax, which goes to the tax coffers to the county. And even though it's by the assessor, it's still money, and it's important. And so and of course there's the other consideration that you could use the marketing tool. Come to Calaveras County, we tax you less.
Yes, I remember you you making that comment. And in general, I think we could still even argue that case in terms of we don't have added sales tax. A lot of areas,
right,
as we know, add sales tax onto their local purchases. At this point, certainly we're well below the curve on the TOT. I'm excited. I actually haven't seen the presentation from the polling firm yet, so I'm excited next week when they come to kind of hear what the residents of the county have said.
So they're polling the residents?
They polled the residents already.
That'd be interesting seeing that.
I am really excited about that, and also on the residents that did participate, because I think it was about a 15-minute survey that they did. It wasn't a short, just punch a few numbers survey. Right. So I'm happy that we got good polling information, and thankful for all the residents that did participate.
Do you know how many there were?
Off the top of my head, no. I want to say the way that it was set up was a random sampling of around 500. That's
quite a bit.
Yeah.
Now, I wonder if there's been any polling done for the people that would be paying the TOT tax, the visitors. And if we took 100 visitors, how many of them would agree to?
That would be a little harder. We'd have to be identifying. I guess we could, hotels would have to share the information of, hey, this person stayed. And usually when you stay at a hotel, I know when I do, I don't want that hotel giving my information out.
Well, that's true.
That would be a hard one.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's exciting, and it'd be interesting to follow that. Next, of course, the biggest item is the budget.
Yes.
And sometimes my brain is not as big as yours, and I get overwhelmed really easy because of the volume of information. And I try to stick with principles, and sometimes I have a hard time applying them. And so, we have like a $9 million question on the budget. What's happening with the budget?
Yes. So we did go into this fiscal year with a healthy fund balance, which our fund balance is money that we have taken in for this year, right. Either additional money that we took in or where we didn't spend as much as we had originally expected. That leaves us with a fund balance. When we then develop a budget, we make an estimate of, okay, we're going to use that fund balance, and based on what governmental accounting tells us, we have to budget all of that available fund balance. We either budget it in a contingency line to be used in case of emergency or for operations. We did end up using all of that $9 million fund balance. We kept to what our fiscal policy is, which is 2% of our available appropriation is under contingency, which I'm happy to have preserved that. I think it's important that we retain that 2% because if another Butte fire hits, right. Or any other type of unexpected occurrence, we have a decent contingency. But that also means, in general, we used more of those funds than certainly I would like to use. And what I had talked about during the budget presentation is when you factor out things like fund balance, recognizing that fund balance, typically you always carry some level. In the past, we've carried $2.5 to $3 million. This year at $9 million, it's a huge increase. Using a lot of that then still runs that risk for next year where we have more expenses than revenue is keeping up with. And so what that means is we need to look to see where we can rein in expenses. At the end of the budget hearing last week, I'm sure you heard the board ask for coming back at final budget in September,
right,
with every department looking at trying to reduce their expenses by 5%. Part of that is recognizing that there's a gap between how much our departments are, generally costing and what revenue we have discretionary within the general fund. There are some things that are usually easier to trim back, say contracts, capital projects,
right.
But there are others that obviously we can't.
Public safety,
staffing in general
yeah.
is, if we trim back on staffing, obviously the goal is not to have to do layoffs. Instead, handle that through vacant positions and, not hiring instead, and letting the revenues, or I should say the expenses, catch up with where they should be, or at least decrease, by holding those positions vacant.
What about contracting out?
For the most part, we don't have much option in terms of what we could contract out. There are pretty specific criteria as a government entity, particularly if we've already been providing it as a direct service, to turn around and begin to contract out. All of that would also have to be agreed to through our labor contracts,
yeah.
Because it ultimately means potentially union positions then being unfunded in lieu of the contract.
That's true. It's difficult to manage a county if much of the laws that you're working with are actually created by the public employees unions. It's almost like having your hands tied.
I was going to say, it's like going to the casinos in Vegas where, the house sets the rules.
Yeah.
It does make it a challenge. I mean, I make light of it in a joke, but it does make it a challenge. And I recognize, where the arguments from the union side is of wanting to preserve their workforce.
Right.
I think, over the last few years, the county's worked hard to try and develop better relationships with our represented employees, trying to build that trust. But, like any relationship, there needs to be a bit of that give and take, and acknowledge where it is challenging. A lot of our groups hadn't taken really any increases in their wages over the last number of years. This year, the board did authorize raises for a lot of those employees that were way out there in terms of where their peers are being paid.
Yeah.
Again, trying to at least recognize the value of our workforce.
Which is a good point. It seems like if management recognizes we have some good employees, and I'm constantly amazed at how dedicated they are and how few complaints we see. And so recognizing employees could have a powerful effect on their enjoyment of their jobs, because people don't work for money alone. Mm-hmm. They like recognition. And so I was wondering, is there a program set up where every once in a while we get a award for somebody's retiring, but he's gone.
It's funny.
We can't get him back to work anymore.
It's funny that you say that, actually, because that's something that I completely agree with. And it's said in not one thing, but a lot of things.
Yes.
One of the important things for me when I came here was making sure that we're working on our grounds, making sure that we're working on our office areas, because first and foremost, our employees are there all day. They need to be comfortable, right, and also feel like they have an office that they can be proud of.
Right.
But then from the recognition standpoint, that's something that I've been talking with HR, and I know HR is developing some programs. One of the things that I would really like to start doing is recognizing employees, one, for their service to the county, whether it's recognizing that 5-year, 10-year service, 15 years of service, but also recognizing those employees that are just, the stellar performers, whether it's excellent customer service, whether it's really going above and beyond, and starting to do kind of that employee of the month type of recognition program that
that's great.
That really says, hey, look, here's somebody to emulate. Here's somebody who's doing a great job. In whatever their area is, and it can be anything.
Yeah.
Those are the type of programs that we're looking at that definitely are important, I feel. And to your point, money is important. People need a living wage, and I think we need to make sure that our employees have a wage that they can live on.
Right.
But beyond that, what really carries people is the environment. Are they recognized? Are they valued?
Yeah. Of course, that goes through all society.
Yes, it does. Yes.
One of the things that it's kind of interesting is that, our taxpayer group has an award, annual award. Sometimes we do more than one. It's called Excellence in Public Service, and quite often the people that get the award are not the people out there plowing the snow or doing this and that. They're people that we see in the boardroom, and so we say, hey, that looks like you're doing a good job. And so, for instance, our board clerk got an award because she just seemed like she's doing a great job. So she got an award for excellence in public service. And then we were hoping we can recruit her to find other people that she might know that we don't know to get more possible names. But so far we've got a few, but not.
I was going to say, I think there could be a good list of great people that are doing so much. I mean, public service is broad. Whether it's in our nonprofit organizations, you look at what they're doing. I look at some of the amazing things our chamber is doing.
Right.
There are a lot of people in this community who that would be hard to have to choose. Who your person is.
It is. But you have to do. Well, I'm excited at the idea that if you're doing a employee of the month, that could tie in. They can also get an award from the taxpayers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And it'll avoid any possible problems that we might have by not having enough information.
Exactly.
Well, anyway, so now on the fund, we had $9 million come left over from previous year, and that's existing funds that we can't depend on in the future. Now, I understand the $9 million came from people that put in money to be registered for cannabis. I think 5,000
not so much.
each. Oh no.
That money is separate and not included in the fund balance.
Oh, okay.
Those are specific registration fees and are treated completely outside of the general fund because they have a very specific purpose.
Okay.
That would include, though, Measure C taxes.
Okay.
So what people paid the actual tax for growing, because that is the discretionary or excise tax.
And then a lot of that is from the stores that they're paying a sales tax, and that's not been banned.
Well, that's for next year, the dispensaries.
Yeah.
But also personal growers, all of them per the voter-approved Measure C. Everyone who was, had basically registered, it was based on their canopy size. So it was actual canopy size that determined what they paid for that first year of Measure C. So it wasn't just the dispensaries, it was, in fact, the growers themselves.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. The last one is CalPERS. And this is a rough one because some communities have gone bankrupt over this. It's pretty serious. Mm-hmm. And here, we don't want to put down public employees, but the unions are pretty well written the have written a playbook on CalPERS. And as a consequence, it's very hard for a county to break free of that, according to our auditor controller. And what do you see in horizon on CalPERS?
Well, and yeah, she is absolutely right. It is next to impossible to leave CalPERS, just by nature of either all of the beneficiaries receive a huge reduction, or you pay CalPERS all of that unfunded liability. When our unfunded liability is in the neighborhood of almost $70 million, it doesn't. There's just not available discretionary funds to just write CalPERS a check and be done. So and again, we're not the only county. A lot of counties are struggling with this, and cities. And what we're trying to do is, knowing that the bill's going to, for that unfunded portion is going to continue to increase, how do we kind of hedge our bets?
Right.
The board and I believe it was March, approved a Section 1115 program that lets us pre-fund our retirement costs.
Right.
So what we can do is take money today, put it in an account that we control, that we work with an investment advisor to try and get a return of our investment on, that would be different than if it's pooled within our actual local county treasury. What that does is lets us earn a little higher rate of return, hopefully to fill some of that gap of what we're going to have to pay in CalPERS. At the same time, setting aside money for future years.
Right.
That is, absolutely dedicated for paying our pension liabilities.
What about defined contributions rather than defined benefits? I understand the Howard Jarvis Taxpayer Association recommends that as a very wise way to approach.
And I think, to your point, right now, everyone, I say, counties and cities are trying to do these measures to help, hedge that tidal wave that's coming.
Right.
The ultimate fix is going to have to be legislative, and you're right. At the end of the day, this is why most private industry went away from doing defined, or I should say, guaranteed pension plans to a defined benefit plan,
right.
Because then it puts, that onus on the employee of, okay, how risky do you want your money to be based on your rate of return? You're responsible for it. We're only giving you X.
Yeah.
And so it does put it back in the hands of the prospective retiree.
Well, I wish we had a solution for these problems. Not yet, but maybe next time. Thank you for being our guest.
Again.
And thank you for watching Taxpayer Alert.